Okay, hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm still putting my hair up, and my voice isn't quite back yet. Hello, Raph. But there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So I'll have to be careful with my voice tonight, which I think will be okay. So I'm hoping everybody's been having a good day. Hello, hi Lee. Take your time. Oh, thanks, Kim. My goodness gracious, I tell you. There's something in the water these days. Something in the water, I swear. All right, well, I've had a ton of throat tea, and then I've had a ton of cough drops. I've, used 2 bottles of Robitussin according to the legal directions. So you'd think I'd be all right. But hello, hi Terry. No. Now listen, Ken. I think we have a misunderstanding. All right. I didn't get a chance to tell you this. I did mute you yesterday in Amanda's live. I know. The reason why was because we heard someone snoring and we didn't know who it was. And so your microphone was open and nobody else's was. And so for me, I used my Sherlock Holmes deductions and muted you. That's the only reason. And then I saw that you immediately unmuted when you could, and now I feel bad about it. Hello. Was it? Well, I know that now, Ken. But in the moment, I was like, someone's got to shut that down now. Anyway, forgive me. Forgive me. We've had several days in a row now that have been a bit bonkers, for sure. Excuse me. I do try to move away from the microphone as best as I can. Again, I've got just the tail end of this sickness, and I have been steaming my vocal cords and really babying them so that I'm able to walk through this. So, there was a preponderance of the evidence. I was peer pressured. It was peer pressured. You can't blame me. Hello, Brian. Welcome in. Always good to see you. Hello, Thomas. King's Day will pull in. Well, I'm not so sure, Strano. I think that's kind of, what they've got in mind. But the Insurrection Act isn't as easy to use de facto as they think. So I'm not sure. That's kind of literally the nuclear option. Because I can't, if they try to pull that in Chicago, all bets are off, right? Because if the person at the top can't follow the laws, it's not setting a very good example. All right, so tonight, because of that, excuse me, I brought out some manuals. And because when you're stressed, you should read manuals, everybody. So I've got several. I have several handbooks that the cubes use. Now, the 3 primary ones that I have been annotating and going forward through have been these 3 here. So we have basic training, this one, Homeland Security basic training here. This was 2020, so only a few years ago, and that's pretty good. Yes, new nails. We have also, this is such a good one, everybody, the National Detention Standards. So anyone who is put into detention, it doesn't matter if you're an American citizen or not, just anyone put into detention, these rules have to be followed. And, spoiler, they're not. So this is enormous. This is going to get them some pretty significant lawsuits. Significant. And this was revised in 2025. So under the current administration. Yeah, it is the thinnest. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we have the National Detainee Handbook. Now this has just got a ton of gems in it, and this will be the one I'll be going through tonight. You can pull this up online. It is available to everyone. And again, this is the ICE, so the cubes are the ones that put this one out. So every detainee should have access to a copy. Now, the first thing I know people are going to say is, so what if they break the rules set out in the handbook? There's two roads if you think that an officer is breaking the rules here, right? The two rules are you can file a grievance, which is tough right now because there aren't a lot of people actually in the administrative process at this moment, or you can file a habeas corpus petition with the Supreme Court. All right, so you have two roads if they're violating this. But these are the rules they set out. These are the rules that they have here. Excuse me. Oh, okay. I'll write that down, Kristen. I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the outskirts of all of this. The young kids here with their ticking and talking. So I will do my best. Oh, you saw the Tang. Oh my gosh, Kristen, I tell you, that's one of my favorite ones. Tang time. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. They do have rules, I know, right? I know. So I think one of the most annoying things when a bully is trying to, bully you is to use the rules against them, right? So, you're gonna have to go, if we're at school, you're gonna have to go to the principal's office, or I'm gonna call the cops, and those rules, but the cube people have their own set of rules again, and if you know what those rules are, then you can protect yourself. Perhaps it would be not the best protection in the moment, but for lawsuits, you have a civil rights violation, you can go forward on that. So, again, I apologize for my cough. That'll probably be my last apology, so we can just dive in. All right, so National Detainee Handbook. If you are detained by the cubes, you are supposed to have access to this. All right, and I don't know if it's going to be online or if they have printed versions. That's not known. This was done in 2024, and that's the most up-to-date version that we have of it that we have here. So, again, I do want to thank, by the way, all of my amazing supporters out there for donating to my printer cartridge fund. I was able to print this out on a color printer, and I couldn't even stop being so excited. I just stood next to my printer, and I was like, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. So thank you all again for your generosity. I appreciate that so much. All right, here we go as we dive in. So the very beginning piece of this, we're going to look and see which language. Now, I chose the English version, of course, but there are other versions available. And so that's a little bit comforting to know that there are a lot of different languages. Oh, even Welsh. Is that Welsh? Seriously. That's cool. Let's just put a little star by that. So, excuse me. So anyway, all of these are available. The only thing is, I'm not sure if they're given an opportunity to see it so that they know an alternative language is available. This, again, is part of the Cubes' own manual here, all right? We'll go through now. Here is our table of contents. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I need a little pick-me-up tonight, everybody. Forgive me here. Midas Touch, which one? The lawsuit Arizona's bringing against Congress? I'm not sure. Well, that's the thing. Crazy. That's the thing. It's, they're violating their own rules. So when you get into court and they say, well, you guys are violating, us. We want to be able to, as executive enforcement people, right? So they're like, we're the minions. We can do whatever we want. And then you say, well, you also have a code you're supposed to follow that you are not following. And that's pretty hard to come back from. On Facebook. Okay, I'm not seeing it. I'll take a look. Good evening. Hello. So anyway, that's one of my favorite things to do. Anytime I was in trial or prepping a case, especially with insurance companies, I would be like, have you read the insurance policy? Like all of the words? And then you can like pull out what you can in order to get your moment across. So here's our table of contents: introduction, language, access, what happens at your arrival at the facilities, your responsibilities and rights. And again, this is for anyone wanting to go and visit as well. We'll get into the visitation section, but this is what's going to happen if you are detained, all right? So, or what should happen. I think it's important that we figure out what it is they're doing. Oh, the pen. Yes, sorry. So here's my pen. Oh my goodness gracious. It's just, I have a pink one too, but it's next to the closet docket. But as you all know, I do prefer a longer pen. It is kind of hard to do the lives with a shorter pen. Let me just give you some idea here. So if you put like a regular pen next to it, see, it's much smaller. So the longer the pen, the better. Right. Exactly. All right, so here we go. Again, I will be going into details here, but we've got responsibilities, what your rights are, your immigration case, communicating with family, friends, and legal representatives. So look at this, they've got this whole piece, right? So again, I bring up the Alcatraz down in Florida. The Florida facility was violating like all of their own rules. So we've got phone calls, tablets, visits, and mail. Child custody questions, legal resources. This needs to be made available to them. So group legal rights presentations. I highly doubt that's happening, but you never know. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees hotline and law library. So those are supposed to be made available to all the detainees. Classification and housing. So your classification level, special management unit housing as well. Next up, meals, activities, and services. Again, this is what is supposed to happen. This is how it's supposed to be, according to the cubes themselves. So we've got meals, a commissary or vending machines, recreation, religion, voluntary work program, library, attending other court hearings, non-immigration, requests to marry, dress and grooming, uniforms, personal care, grooming, laundry, a clean facility. So, I don't know if I've not really seen anybody actually in the facilities. I'm wondering if they have them changed into something. Could be just uncertain at this time. Rules and procedures. So they do head counts, authorized property and contraband, searches and viewing, that's normal. Discipline and your rights, use of force and restraints, which we will go through that. I think it's important to have a baseline of what their use of force is. And then also criminal charges that can come from this. Right. General health and safety, so the evacuation drills, medical orientation, and health information. Now, a lot of the biggest complaints have been medication is not being distributed, right? So they pick you up, they take you there, and all of your medications, which all the pharmacies are like, you need a whole bunch of medication, and then you don't give it to them. You can have some incredibly vicious side effects from that, which has been going on, and is also set out in a couple of the lawsuits. So a general overview of the services provided, additional services, healthcare appointments, second opinions, medications. So that's what we're going to kind of focus on as well. Medications, mental health care, and unalive risk, medical records, privacy notice regarding the collection of your information for the medical care. So we do have some rights to privacy on this. Sexual abuse and assault awareness, detention as a safe environment. Definitions, prohibited acts, avoiding sexual abuse and assault. Again, I always hate that when they say you need to avoid it. It's like, well, don't you need to keep the ones doing that away from everybody else? Why is it the victim that needs to be the one to avoid it? reporting all that kind of abuse and assault, medical care, counseling, victim services, understanding the criminal justice process. So that's another one. Oh my goodness gracious. This happens every time with my pens. Every time with my pens, everyone. Oh my goodness. Okay. And next, human trafficking. So we've got a piece there. And if you've ever been involved in any of the human trafficking situations, it's very intensive. They have a lot of requirements. They need a lot of information. And, if you are the one who is being taken, or you've witnessed someone being taken, there are just a ton of protocols you have to follow in that system. Next, questions, requests, and grievances. So we'll go into that too, because I think some people probably have some grievances. Here, informal complaints, and then how to file a grievance or formal complaint. Now, a grievance is going to be an administrative road, saying that they violated some administrative rules. Now, the way that things are right now, there is basically no one to file a grievance with, right? We've lost our inspector generals. We've lost anyone who would have the legal authority to move a grievance forward. And I don't mean, necessarily, it'd be possible, but this is where we get into the realm of the Department of Justice not prosecuting, right? So they are not going to bring cases up, and they're not going to agree to move them forward. So that's what we're talking about with that one. Next, we have records, facility release, postings, and notices. So again, this is the National Detainee Handbook that everyone is supposed to get upon entering a detention center. All right, they do have little facility guides that vary slightly from detention center to detention center. Like the LA Center has a little different booklet than the Chicago detention center. Same in Portland. Okay. Hello, Debbie. So they are a little different, but there weren't any updated ones. So that's why I kind of pulled this instead. So introduction, you're being housed in a detention facility operated and contracted by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and removal operations. So we have ICE and ERO, which are used together. Language access. If you don't speak or understand English, and they probably didn't even understand that sentence I just read, or cannot read or write English, an interpreter will be provided to you free of charge for medical and ICE or detention-related matters. So note the qualifiers here, all right? So you're allowed, but only in certain situations, for one to be provided, or else you'll need to bring your own, essentially. This assistance can include a staff member who speaks your language or a professional interpreter. Any written materials provided to you should also be translated into your language or explained to you orally in your language by an interpreter. Tell a staff member at your facility or an ICE officer if you need help understanding this handbook or any other information. So we already know that our detention centers are not accommodating this, right? Thank you, Thomas. Right. I would imagine so, Debbie. There's one thing about this administration that I've never seen the equal to in this country is the amount of information that they collect and keep of Americans. So, and everybody really, they're really collecting a lot of information. All right, so your arrival at the facility. So let's just put yourself in the mindset that you've been arrested. Now, I'm not saying anyone arrested at the protests are going to be taken to detention centers. That might just be the local jail. But there have been people already over the last couple of weeks who were involved in the protests, and they took them into detention centers, released them later, obviously, because they were U.S. citizens. But if you still go through that process, it can be very overwhelming. Yes, but be careful. And I think, I feel like they're going to be. I think what's going to be the trouble is you're going to have people coming in trying to escalate everything. So we got to watch out for that too. All right, most facilities follow the same basic steps when a detainee arrives at the facility. See Table 1 on the next page for the steps and procedures. Excuse me, of processing. You will probably stay at the facility until you're granted bond or release from custody. Your immigration case is decided. You are ordered to be removed from the country, or you're transferred to another facility. All right, so basically, right, the courts, or you need to be, excuse me, taken to another country or transferred to another facility. That's what happens with the people who were in the Florida facility. They were moved to other facilities. All right, here we go. It's your responsibility to read this handbook to learn about your responsibilities and rights as a detainee, programs and services available to you, rules you must follow, procedures for common situations, and how to report problems and file complaints. This handbook provides only a summary of the important information, does not cover all the rights and requirements related to your stay at the facility. Right. There's a lot of great prep work you can do, especially on your phone, to make sure that there's no easy way for them to get into your phone. You will also receive another handbook from your facility that explains its local rules. This one's, I'm not sure about that. I mean, I don't know that they're giving anybody anything to look at. It is important that you understand and follow the rules in both handbooks. If you lose this handbook, you are entitled to one replacement. Copies will be available for reference at the law library and in the housing units, or may be requested from facility staff. So that's interesting, housing units, because some of the detention centers are like in prisons, right, and jails. So I'm not sure what houses are available. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Get those biometrics out of there, at least for the next few years. So yes, you stay at the facility. I know. That's why it's so interesting here, because it's like this is a vacation place? No. All right, here are your, right, so the faculty and staff here. If you need help understanding this handbook, tell a staff member at your facility or an IC officer, of which, of course, they're shorthanded. If you do not read, write, speak, or understand English, you have the right to receive important information in a language or format you understand, or to have someone explain it to you orally in your language. Tell an officer if you need assistance. So again, they're making it seem like, oh, I can just ask the person out there, to help. Like, I'm not sure how much help they're going to do here. All right, your responsibilities and rights. So I've not read through all of this, so I'm reading it the first time. So I want to kind of see what they are setting out as what you have for rights. While IC's policy is to treat all detainees with dignity and respect and to keep the facility safe, secure, and clean, you also have responsibilities and rights. Your responsibilities. One of your main responsibilities is to learn and follow all the facility's rules, regulations, and instructions. If you do not follow the facility's rules, you may be subject to discipline. So at this moment, I would pause and say, do we remember what happens with a huge group of South Koreans who were pulled from a place where they were working and put into detention? Now, I'm sure that there were many that had English understandings, but can you imagine, you're there to work, you have a contract, you're good to go, getting everything set up, and then boom, you're taken to a detention center and you're going through all of this, right? They're really giving, no, I don't, Kaya. No, I don't. But the other thing too, as we go through this, everybody, these are just great shouting points, right? And I know I'm a dork, but this is a great shouting point, right? So when the ICE is there and they're trying to give you the, chemical weapons, you can say, did you show them the manual as required? It's required by your own rules, right? We can, we can change it up a little bit, right? Right, highly educated. Oh my gosh, I know. Right, inaccessible. Yeah, exactly. Can't even get an aspirin. Yeah, I'm not surprised. But that's what we're doing here. We're looking and we're saying, look, we're not the ones doing this. This is your own set of rules. This is what you said they could have here. All right, so you must also respect the staff, other detainees, and all property, and keep yourself and your surroundings clean. Again, this is difficult to do when you put a huge quantity of people into just one room and lock the door. All right, you are also responsible for cooperating with the staff. Now, this again is one of those things where you got to play the game. You got to play the game, or you're going to get burned. Do you ever worry about authorities watching you? Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. But, I've been worried about that for years. So it's not something that's like, oh, this administration for me. I'm like, yeah, I'm somewhere. I'm on a list somewhere, I'm sure. I've taken proper protection, so I'm feeling okay about that. You're also responsible for cooperating, right, with the staff, using staff members' titles, as in Mr. or Miss, Dr. Officer, and their last name, being polite to other detainees, and following laundry and shower schedules. So again, these are, you got to play the game in order to get out. Your rights down here, you have the right to maintain your personal well-being, hygiene, and health care. Is that occurring? No, it's not. While detained at the facility, you have the right to balanced, nutritious meals, clean clothes, and regular opportunities to bathe, shower, and do laundry, and be given the supplies to do so, right? So this is a basic human rights violation. So I'm just going to put UN over here when we have something just so blatantly human rights that we're violating. All right. So, and they know it. And I'm sure the UN has all of this stuff. And that's how they got approved to even have a detention center. Right. Because they had all of these guarantees. Now, the implementation is just not there. You have the right to live in areas with proper air circulation and heating, and have access to medical and mental health care if needed. Oh, James, we're going through the detainee handbook, right? So the National Detainee Handbook. All right, here's table 1. Steps to process a detainee. So we'll walk through this and see if people are following this one. All right, intake officer. So what happens? Let's say you're out protesting and then grab you. They take you to detention as opposed to jail. All right. First thing, intake officer takes your clothes, money, and property for safekeeping. And again, as I go through this, I keep thinking about the South Korean group that was subjected to this. It's just so horrific. And it gives you an itemized receipt for all items, conducts a personal search as part of processing to help ensure that you and other detainees live and work in a safe and orderly environment. Of course, it's going to be a very invasive search. It is important for you to keep the itemized receipt of your possessions. You will receive your property back when you're released. Intake officer makes a list of all of your legal and identification documents, passport, birth certificate, then gives them to an ICE officer who will put them in your official immigration file called an A file. Thank you, Fee. All right. Next, your personal documents will be returned to you when your case is resolved. Then we have a little footnote here. We'll catch those at the end. Excuse me, sorry. Okay. All right, usually I get a little break from the coughing, so here we go. You'll receive an A number, which is used to identify you during your stay at the facility. You should share your A number with your family and attorney so they can find you in the online detainee locator system. Right. So the officer will tell you what things can and cannot be kept with you at the facility. The officer's decisions are based on safety and security concerns. You, depending on the specific facility's policies, you may be able to keep some religious items, such as a religious headscarf. You may, now let's hold on a minute here, right? You may be able, all right, to keep religious headscarves and medallions, simple wedding bands, photos, soft cover religious, and personal reading materials, legal documents, and papers, including property receipts and other small items shown in the facility's local handbook. Right. Officer provides you with bed linens, such as bed sheets, a pillowcase, and a blanket. You check the facility's policy and procedure for the issuance and exchange of bedding, but you may typically exchange bedding once a week. If you have a bed, that's good. All right. Whew. Here we go. Check the facility. Oh, I already did that one. Gives you approved personal care items such as soap, a toothbrush, a comb, etc. You may ask a housing officer for more personal care items when needed. Now, we already know that that was not being done at some of the facilities. You may shower and get clean clothes as appropriate for the climate at the facility. The officer decides your classification level and assigns you to a housing unit with other detainees in your classification level. Healthcare professional asks about your physical and mental health and medications. So that's a question I have. Are they really seeing healthcare professionals? Or do we have like a school nurse situation, which I'm not knocking, by the way, but where they've got someone on site that will go in? Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. All right. Next, tell your healthcare professional of any health problems, disabilities, or need for disability accommodations, concerns needing immediate attention, or any medications you are taking or need. An approved healthcare professional will give you a comprehensive medical exam within 14 days after your arrival. Right? And how much of a violation is that? Yeah, they very well might do that, actually, Lisa. I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry, here we go. Throat lozenge. All right, if copies of the documents are needed for your hearing, you should ask an ICE officer in advance. For more information on this topic, see your facility's local handbook and the classification levels. I wonder too, everyone, if their attorneys are like, ask them for a handbook. I hope they are. Medical information, safeguarded, kept confidential. If you need copies of these documents, you should ask a medical provider, IC officer, or facility staff for the appropriate request form. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking too, Cody. And if they do have one, it's not going to be someone with, huge credentials. Not that nurses don't, because my goodness, they do, but you know what I mean. All right, so next up we've got, if you're a person with a disability, you have a right to request accommodations based on your disability. If you are a person with a disability, such as limited ability to move, speak, breathe, see, hear, or care for yourself, you have the right to request and receive reasonable accommodations that provide an equal opportunity to access, participate in, or benefit from the facility's programs, activities, and services available to other detainees. Like they're setting it up like we're, at camp. Like, let's do some, leather bracelets or flower crowns. Like, what? You also have the right to be provided aids or services to help you communicate, see, or hear. The facility is required to communicate with you in a manner you understand. Ask what accommodations you need and give primary consideration to your preferences. The facility must inform you of the process to make a disability accommodation request, as well as the grievance process in the facility must make those processes accessible to you. If you would like to file a grievance or formal complaint about the facility disability accommodations, you can follow the procedures listed on page 37 of this handbook. You also have the right to reasonable and equitable opportunities to practice your faith, constrained, i.e., restricted or denied, only by concerns about safety, security, and the orderly operation of the facility. If a religious practice must be restricted or denied, you have the right to request an alternative method to practice your sincere religious beliefs that does not present concerns regarding safety, security, and order. File a complaint about the living conditions with the facility or the Department of Homeland Security, and I'm sure they'll get right on that. Be free from being discriminated against. Well, that didn't happen. That's not going to happen for any reason, including in race, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity. So you can tell this was the 2024, right? Physical disability, mental disability, or political beliefs. Be free from neglect or abuse. Report any assault, including an incident of sexual abuse or assault, to facility staff or DHS, and access law library resources and legal assistance. See your local facility handbook for information about legal aid programs and their presentation rules, procedures, and hours. And as I'm reading through this, I keep thinking about how there were lawyers like screaming in Los Angeles, like, you have a right, don't say anything. Like they're screaming because they can't contact their clients close, right? Does anybody remember that? So you have access to legal assistance. I'm not sure. Yes, it's in 19 languages. Yep. So, and that's like at the very beginning here. So all of these different languages, and hopefully one of them will work. All right, here we go. Your immigration case. Let me make sure here I'm in frame. Okay, you have a right to obtain a lawyer or a legal representative, excuse me, of your choice at no cost to the U.S. government. It's your responsibility to obtain the services of the attorney. That person must sign a form, G28, to notify the facility, IC, and DHS that they will represent you. Depending on your case, you may have the right to a hearing before an immigration judge. You or your lawyer or legal representative are responsible for presenting your case to the immigration judge. If the law allows it, the U.S. government can decide your immigration status using alternative procedures, which may not involve an immigration judge. That doesn't seem right. You may also be authorized for release on bond until your scheduled hearing. If so, it's your responsibility to pay the bond. Right. That's a flag. You have the right to ask for relief from removal based on various legal grounds if you believe you qualify. These might, oh my goodness, yes, thank you so much. I do appreciate it, everyone. As I said, my color printer, oh my goodness. I'm just like so thankful. These might include cancellation of removal, adjustment or status, asylum, withholding of removal, or relief under the Convention Against Tea Orchard. We call that the CAT. well, we call it probably not the cat, just cat, or degrading treatment or punishment. For example, you have the right to ask for asylum to stay in the United States if you were or are afraid you will be persecuted in your native country or a country, nationality, where you last lived because of your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. You have the right to leave the United States voluntarily before your hearing if statutorily eligible, right? So you can actually take yourself out of the country. This is called voluntary departure. If your request is approved, you may lose the right to present your case at the hearing. If you want to leave voluntarily, you must tell the ICE officer or the immigration judge. If you've got questions about the removal process, talk to your ICE officer. This is another issue I have, everyone. With all these people just joining ICE or joining the cubes, they're not going to know. You ask them, they're not going to know any of the answers. You may also call any of the lawyers or legal representatives on the list of free legal services providers given to you by ICE. In addition, your facility's law library may have materials explaining this information. I wonder about that too. Do you think they've made it accessible to have a list of attorneys? That's one of the biggest problems is they say you have a right to an attorney and you're like, well, where do I find one, right? So that'd be great if they actually had something in place. If you believe that you qualify for a type of immigration relief, you should try to talk to a lawyer or legal representative. There may also be time restrictions for applying for such relief, so make sure you fill out and turn in the necessary applications in a timely manner, or you can miss your opportunity to have your claim reviewed. It is your responsibility to prepare and submit the proper forms requesting relief. Tea break. Thank you. Okay. So next. Yeah. Again, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not quite 100%, but I'm getting there. I'm like 85%, so bear with me. All right. Communication with family, friends, and legal representatives. This is so important. This was such a violation in Florida. So this is so incredibly important. This part of the handbook explains how to communicate with others outside the facility, including phone calls, visitors, and mail. And again, in Florida, they would not allow attorneys into the building for a while. Important. While you're being detained, your family members, legal representatives, and others from the general public may be trying to locate you. They can't find you through the online detainee locator system at this location online. The best way to search for individuals in the online detainee locator system is to use the detainee's A number and country of birth. No, Nancy, I'm okay. I'm sorry, I'm okay. My lungs are just like, what's happening? Nope, we're good. All right, phone calls. When you first arrive at the facility, you'll be given access to a telephone. Later, you may make phone calls from your housing unit. All calls may be monitored, except those to your lawyer, legal representatives, or to the court. Keep in mind, you could lose or have your phone privileges limited if you do not follow faculty rules, abuse the phone equipment, or make calls for illegal activities. It is your responsibility to learn the facility's rules for phone use. You have the right to ask to use the ICE phone systems if your request to use the phone is denied. Tell any ICE officer that you want to make a written request to use the phone system. See Table 2 on page 11 for more information on phone use while at the facility. Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? Now, what I've noticed, just based anecdotally on my own visitation of for people who are being detained in various ways has been anything you say will be recorded, but you've got a 50-50 shot if you're an attorney to not have that information shared. And what we would try to do too, many times there would be like collect calls to the law firm, and you would just, agree to whatever. And then when you spoke with them, you had to be careful that you didn't say anything that could be used against them. All right, next step, to contact any phone number in the United States using a TTLIVE, so a TTY machine. So if you have hearing issues, using a facility TTY machine, first L 711, this connects you with the Telecommunications Relay Service, so TRS. See if that. Once you're connected, you can go through the process there. I'm not going to spend too much time. Just read through the process. Besides, those of us that already use this will know exactly what we need to do. Tablets. Your facility may have electronic tablets that allow you to communicate with friends, family, and attorneys. These tablets contain some free content and helpful information, such as a copy of this handbook, facility postings, and religious and legal resources. Other other contents available to rent or purchase, including entertainment like movies and music. Some facilities have enabled additional functions such as communication with ICE and medical staff. Refer to the facility's local handbook or ask a staff member for details. Use of tablets is a privilege, not a right, and availability may be limited during high usage periods. Tablet usage may be monitored, and there is no expectation of privacy. So those are 3 buzzwords. So those are the magic words that open the door for searching. Any misuse of the tablet or other detainee actions resulting in disciplinary sanctions may include loss of tablet privileges. Again, I would remind you that the people going into detention have not been charged with a crime. They have been taken administratively with violation of not having paperwork. All right, so let's clarify this. We're not in here pulling the worst of the worst criminals off the streets, although this is very similar to what it is like in jail. Yeah, I think you're right, Jelly Kelly. But if we have it, we can pass it on, right? All right, here we go. Visits. You can have visitors. Visitors must follow a facility visitation policy and procedures. It's your responsibility to ensure your visitors know the visitation rules. You will find the policy and procedures in the faculty's local handbook, which I'm sure is easily accessible. All visitors must wear appropriate clothing. All right, so this is what you need to tell your family and friends if they're coming to see you. So appropriate clothing, behave in an orderly way. If you or your visitors are disruptive, they will have they'll have to leave. And the facility may limit your visits in the future. Visitors and anything they bring to the facility must be searched. No weapons, right? They may be asked to put their property in a locker or in their car. Your visitors may bring you items, but an officer must first check and approve them and tell your visitors not to bring a lot of packages or other items with them. So that's okay, right? If that's actually being allowed. Anything you accept from a visitor that was not approved by an officer can be taken from you and seized as contraband. Oh my goodness. You also may be subject to administrative and criminal penalties for the possession of contraband. For information, go to table 3. Vitamin C in the morning. Okay, we love that. Pardon. All right, so here's our visitor section, everybody. So dress appropriately. Don't bring anything in that could be used as a weapon. So I think those are the 2 highlights here. Mail, you may send and receive mail unless it threatens the safety, security, or order of the facility. Read the rules about mail in this handbook and in your facility's local handbook. It's your responsibility to know and follow the rules about mail and to explain these rules to anyone who writes to you. If there is a reason to believe you are not following mail rules, your mail privileges may be limited. For further information, look to Table 4. So this is the moment where I always remember, and I'm sure nobody else remembers, but you remember, you're going to say no, but Jodi Arias, that whole situation with the homicide. So Jodi Arias, and then she like represented herself. They had a bifurcated trial and such, right? So she was being watched very carefully. Oh, good. I will absolutely do that. She was watched very carefully. What she did when she was in, and she still is that she had a magazine, right? Back in the old days. I don't remember which one. She had a magazine, and she wrote tiny little words into some of the spine in the pages to send a message out because her friend was coming to visit, and then she gave her friend the magazine, and then her friend left, and then the officers trained to do this 24/7 were looking through, and they found it. And it was, I don't remember exactly what it was that they found, but she then was no longer able to receive any kind of printed material for a while. They look for it. They're really trained. They are really trained. Of course, we remember, well, no glasses. Well, good. I'm thankful. Oh. We may even have an O.J. Simpson story that'll come out of this, but we'll have to see. So, Table 2, information regarding phone calls. Here, I'm just going to go through and list who you can call, and then we'll keep moving here. So a general population, so friends, family, businesses, find a lawyer or legal representative, lawyer, legal representative for non-immigration. Here, emergency situation, so there was an unalive in your family or illness. State child welfare stakeholders, that's a big box. Your country's consulate office in the U.S., DHS office of the Inspector General, again, which has been demolished. ICE detention reporting and information line. ICE OPR intake and assessment. Courts, immigration courts and Board of Immigration Appeals. Pro bono attorneys or free legal aid groups. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in government offices. And I will note that the UN has popped over here several times and is doing some investigating. So just as an FYI. Yes, it is Upgrade 2.0. I'm so glad you asked. Yes, at the very beginning, they have a page that sets out which language do you speak. So in here, also, because of course the nuances are going to be different. So yes, and they said it themselves. You are required, you are allowed to have proper language so you can understand what's being said to you. Does this apply to the processing centers too? I would think so, yes. And if you mean having it written in a language you can understand, that's across the board, yes. That's part of due process. All right. So some people are like, oh, due process, you got to have a judge and all of that stuff. No. Due process is that you have a fair walk through whatever legal system the government's putting you through. And that could include on the very front end, having paperwork or being spoken to and not being able to understand them. That's a violation of due process. Get nothing for a while, right? Did you ever think you'd have to do this? I don't know. I just remember in the first term, with the bans that were going on. And I also remember, the USA Patriot Act and that period of time too, where there was so much here. So you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen in this situation. The only thing that surprises me are the citizens who voted for him, and now their families are being taken and they're upset about it, right? And I'm not picking out a race or an ethnicity, but those who were supporters, and then now the comeuppance is coming, and it's pretty awful. So that's one thing that I think about quite a bit. Right. So exactly, and that's the thing though, is, and one of the number one pieces of evidence that we use for products liability, especially for civil lawsuits, is the handbook. Like, where's the handbook? And go through that, because that's where you see if everybody followed the rules, all right, great. But if somebody didn't follow the rules, then they need to be held for that, and their case will take off from there. Right. To reduce liability, absolutely. But then also their rules are the ones that will get them tangled up. They'll say, well, we don't have to do that, or we could put that on hold. It's like, actually, you can't. It's in your own rules. All right, information regarding visitors. Again, they've got Monday through Friday and all of these things set out for the time allotted, and the notes. We have no idea if this is going on. Our centers are so overwhelmed with these big numbers that somebody's been asking for that I think a lot of things are being put to the side because of that. These are for just any detention center. All right, so if you are bringing, this is the handbook here for a National Detainee Handbook, custody management. Well, that's quite the spin, I think. So if you are taken into detention, and a lot of detention centers are, side one like lane in prisons, in jails, they might have a couple of cells that are kept just for this, that kind of thing. More aggressively, I tell you, Debbie, I tell you what, I think we have an age issue, quite frankly. I think that a lot of people want to do the same thing that they've always done because they've had some luck with it in the past, not recognizing that the past is in the past. I mean, we are in our second civil rights movement. I mean, that's how important this is. Like, we're already there. And so those things, those techniques that you used in the 70s and 80s when you were a young whippersnapper, those aren't going to work anymore. So the Democrats that recognize that and go forward using other means are moving and shaking with the times. And the rest that refuse are the anchors dragging them back down. So I'm glad to see that they didn't fall into line regarding the bill, that they held firm for that. I'd like to see more of that. That's my personal opinion. Right. Yeah, and that's my personal opinion. And I know there's a lot, of questions about that, but you cannot come into this civil rights movement and think that what worked before will work again, because it's a different animal. But make no mistake, this will be coined, I have no doubt, the United States' second civil rights revolution here. So that's the movement. Right, they're going to verse anyway. Exactly. All right, so table 4, information regarding mail. I won't go through that too much, but, because it's very similar to jails or prisons or mental health facilities here. Really? Yeah, you got it, Kaya. You know what I'm saying. All right, so it's your responsibility to explain these rules to anyone who comes to visit you. So you've got that. Child custody questions here. So if you're worried about your child, you can tell the facility staff you'd like to report potential child problems if you are worried about your kids. Legal resources, again. And they go into legal groups can come in and give group presentations. I don't think that was happening at the Florida facility. I don't think the lawyers were coming in and putting on a show. That was not happening. So we're, just move past that. we've got United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees hotline. So this is what's available internationally. And they're supposed to have a law library available as well. The same thing is for prisons and, well, not so much jails. Jails may have a law library that can be accessed, but definitely the longer term prison classification and housing. So this is one thing that I think is important. I'll grab this first paragraph here. Leaders are too old to fight, too young to remember the 50s and 60s. Yeah. It's a different kind. It's a different kind of battle. It's the kind of battle that you can do sitting in your chair in your pajamas. All right, that's what I'm saying. So unless you're trying to kind of make a display of it. So classification level here. When you arrive at the facility, an officer will decide your classification level. Who? Just an officer. Exactly who is it? We don't know. Level and assign you to a housing unit with other detainees in your classification level as appropriate. The officer will decide your classification by considering the information in your records, including criminal charges and convictions, immigration history, discipline record, current classification level, and other related information. So go through, check, and then decide where you're going to be. If you don't think your classification level is correct, good luck. I guess that's what I would say with that. Yes, they most certainly did upgrade. They most certainly did. All right, so then they go, again, everyone, they go into meals have to be nutritious, activities need to be like helpful, what's on the menu, is there pork in the food? And based off of the reporting we're getting, it's like they probably just don't want to have, like maggots in their food. Like they're probably not that picky at this point because of how horrific that is. So then they walk through. There's a voluntary work program. There's dress and grooming, availabilities. You've got laundry, clean facilities, rules and procedures, when you get counted, property contraband, and so on. So the rest of these are really just going into more detail on those bits and pieces. So and I'm not trying to pull this too soon, but there is another piece I do want to read to you here under the National Detention Standards. So what I'm reading here is the National Detainee Handbook. All right, and it is available online. It's 2024. And if you put this in to your search engine for 2024, it will pull this up. So you can really take your time and go through it, especially if you know someone who's in detention. This is very important. Is it being followed? Probably not. And that's another reason why it's so important, because, you got to follow your own rules. So, and there's a lot in here. Again, thank you everybody for the printer ink, the toner. Thank you. But there's a lot of different pieces in here. Not something that I'll be able to go through here, but it is available online. $1 a day. Yeah, that sounds right. All right. So next, actually, maybe I should go through. Let me see here. Maybe we should go through the first page of basic training. And versus the National Detention Standards. Okay, so let me jump in here and talk about basic training real quick. Or not real quick. I'm uncertain at this point. Do we get... Oh, that's so funny. I do, Debbie, you're right. I've got about 10 minutes left here for me. The thing is, here's how I look at it. I just do not want to turn into Mr. Kennedy Jr., right? His voice is so rough, I can barely listen to it. Or, excuse me, one of Trump's attorneys, I think he's like the Solicitor General now. My gosh, their voice is so hard. Right. Excuse me. All right, here we go. Let's get to it. This is April of 2020, so, excuse me. tea break. All right, this is 2020. Now, the thing about these kinds of handbooks is they may change a few words here and there. They may add a few things here and there, but the bulk of these handbooks just do not change. They just don't. So I did compare this to some of the other available online but not printable pieces of the training. Excuse me. Again, this is basic training for Homeland Security investigations. Let's just look here at the table of contents. All right, one more lozenge here. Oh, thanks for bearing with me, everybody. All right, so here's the handbook. Purpose and the scope, the introduction, definitions, going into that basic program, criminal investigator training programs, HSI Academy, special agent training, special agent trainee, use of force incident, a review board. All right, so again, that use of force is so important. Authorities, references, responsibilities. Executive Associate Director, Homeland Security Investigations, Assistant Director, Investigative Programs, Deputy Assistant Director, Investigative Services Division, Division Chief, HSI Academy, Unit Chief, Basic Training Operations, Section Chiefs, Basic Training, HSI Academy Class Coordinators, Special Agents in Charge, Special Agent trainees. So those are the responsibilities. Next, again, this is the basic training for new people coming into the ICE, right? Reporting for training, so go and do your training. Travel and visits are limited. So we have training center information. Some of this is redacted. But we've got in here, really what I want to note is what it is that they're telling these people. So we have conduct and discipline, and we have a trainee honor code, discipline at the HSI Academy here, in this conduct, corrective actions, administrative information. So this is what's really interesting. They have to go through and explain, right, chain of command, counseling, non-training days, communicating with and reporting in trainees' duty station, dress code, appearance guidelines. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but you know, that fella who was like, oh, all the military need to be fit. I'm tired of seeing chubby military people, which, by the way, are you freaking kidding me? Those people are serving this country. If they want a cookie, I'm going to give them a cookie. They've earned it. But that's one of the things that I am noticing, though, with ICE is I'm not sure that they are on a no cookie eating regimen. You know what I'm saying? So, I am. Thank you. I think that's very interesting and another way to distinguish, but I'm not sure how exactly. But we do have appearance guidelines, physical training uniform, training weapons inventory, personal identity verification card, laptops, not hunters, but reporting injuries sustained in training, personal mail, overtime gifts, equal employment opportunity. That's interesting. Why would we have that? I don't think that's even part of our government anymore here. Equal employment opportunity question, reasonable accommodations. What's reasonable question? All right. Excuse me. Then we have the HSI program. I'm sure it's got some fun name to it, but I'm past that. We've got training requirements, attendance, hours, assessment, written exam integrity, practical exams, firearms training, firearms qualifications, use of force and tactical training, egregious and questionable use of force, incidents. Now, so we've got just a couple of pages here. You can see this. Look at this here. Use of force, right? Here we go. Use of force is on page 36, right? So that's one page. Egregious or questionable use of force is on one page here. So pages 36, 37, and 38 cover egregious or questionable uses of force, physical. Well, that's not even though, oh my gosh, I thought there was a third one. No, 2 pages. 2 pages here. And that, unaliving force that's being used here, you get 2 pages worth of information. Yeah, exactly. And again, the civil rights violations, those are the ones that can potentially break immunity. So a lot of times federal employees will have some level of federal immunity, but if a civil rights violation is occurring, it's possible to break past that immunity. All right, removals here, medical removals, security removals, at least they have that, resignation removals, removal process, training conduct report, and completing the HSI SAT program, graduation, awards, badges, credentials, departure from the academy, investiture programs here. So, and then at the end, they've got some extra pieces as well in their appendices. But this is a 13-week program, and they take 24 students at a time. I just want to look and see real quick, everybody, what's on page 36, and then I'll have to kind of wind us down here so I can rest my voice because she's bipolar. All right, here we go. So trainees, let's talk about use of force. We'll just take this for a minute. We do have this part redacted, so that's not available to the public. That's fine. So a component of, I don't know, let's call it, what should we call it? HISAT. Trainee must fully participate in and pass all the use of force training and tactical training PEs. Use of force training consists of instructional blocks related to defensive tactics, control tactics, entry tactics, OC spray, baton, and use of force scenario decision-making programs. Tactical training consists of instructional blocks related to search warrant tactics, undercover rescue, active pew-pewer, tactical medical, and vehicle tactics. Trainees may not bring any other weapon, including knives or any batons or handcuffs not issued by HSI Academy. During the use of force training or tactical training conducted by FLETS mat rooms, trainees must wear duty belts and uniforms properly at all times, refrain from sitting or lying on the floors, treat all weapons as if they were loaded, no frivolous behavior will be tolerated, and remain in the designated training areas until granted permission to leave by an instructor. Okay, and then they have over here that egregious piece here. So let's just take a quick peek again. Egregious or questionable use of force incidents. Instructors assigned to firearms and tactics are required to document and address questionable or egregious use of force incidents and other SA training, trainee conduct and or performance issues in the firearms and tactical areas. For egregious or questionable use of force incidents, firearms and tactic instructors will address the specific action or lack thereof with the SA trainee immediately following the incident. Once notified, the SA trainee will be required to write the use of force incident report, including a detailed explanation of why he or she acted in the egregious or questionable manner. SA trainees will have 3 business days from the date of the incident to complete and submit their report to the instructor and their class coordinator. Additionally, the instructor must complete a trainee conduct report, and additional instructors who observed or were involved in the incident are encouraged to complete memos detailing their observations. So here we go. We've got the bureaucracy in full force. As soon as possible after the SE trainee submits that, and the SA trainee will meet with this UO-FIRB unless not operationally possible. This meeting should occur within 3 business days. The SA trainee will have the opportunity to articulate his or her actions in front of the UO-FIRB. The UO-FIRB will review the trainee's report and provide feedback to the trainee. All right. All right, so then we've got our actions here. we do have our actions. So again, here we go. Trainee was able to articulate necessary and reasonable use of force during the scenario. Then you're fine. Trainee was not able to articulate necessary and reasonable use of force during the scenario, but successfully articulates an understanding of failure to adhere to the policy, case law, or performance criteria in such a manner that demonstrates he or she can effectively apply necessary and reasonable force in future scenarios. And that means there are no further actions required, even if you are unable to articulate what level of force is appropriate. Trainee was neither able to articulate necessary and reasonable use of force during the scenario, nor successfully articulate an understanding or a failure to such a manner that demonstrates that he or she can effectively apply them in the future. Additional trainings needed. So if you don't know the proper level of force and you take it too far and you don't know why they're telling you you took it too far, and you don't see any problem with your behavior, they're going to give you some additional training. I'm not sure that's going to do it. All right. Trainee was neither able to articulate necessary and reasonable use of force during the scenario, nor successfully articulate an understanding of the failure to adhere to the policy, case law, or performance criteria in such a manner that demonstrates that he or she can do so in the future. And that is where a recommendation for dismissal from training comes. Now, it's not saying dismissal from the program, it's saying dismissal from training. So, right. Whew. All right, and then we have another piece in here. And again, that's not much more information. So basically, they have almost no information on excessive use of force. So apparently that's not a thing. You know, the other thing that they're missing too, which I honestly see, like I've read through a ton of police handbooks, in order to make sure everybody's following the rules, as you do. And one thing that's missing when they're talking about use of force, there's no explanation of de-escalation. There's nothing in there that says, first, let's do some de-escalation, or how we can do that. I mean, we're looking here through the materials, and there's nothing in here about de-escalating the situation. I think that really hits home what's going on here. Yeah, there's my pen again. My little pen. Yes. So there you have it, everybody. When it comes to basic training, excuse me, I do have more standards, and I will have to do a live on that another day. I do need to go and rest my voice. I'm lucky I got an hour here. There's so many scenarios. True. But I have seen it put into law enforcement manuals and explained brilliantly. There are some law enforcement manuals out there for local city police that I think the entire country could learn something from, for sure. It really has to do with your jurisdiction and how they write their rules up. But I've seen some pretty good ones, especially going through and explaining the de-escalation process. So I think that's always very interesting. With that, my friends, I will go ahead and sign off for tonight. So your poor ears don't hear any more coughing. Yikes. Thanks for bearing with me. I sincerely appreciate it. Take care. I'll be back. I will be going through the detention standards, but we also have some interesting cases coming down as well. So I'll be back as soon as I can. Have a great night, everyone.